Hello my dear YouTuber friends, and I do hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video, and this is going to be at least a two-parter. I'm going to start the Concorde, that beautiful Concorde up. I mean, look at it again. From cold and dark. I'm actually in a cold and dark state at the moment. I've just got trucks. Good job I caught this, wasn't it? Trucks driving into one another, trying to get... all trying to get to my beautiful, iconic aircraft. Gonna start up in a cold and dark state, and we're gonna be flying one of the tutorial flights that you get included, or one of the flight plans you get included with the Concorde. That's from London Heathrow, where we currently are, over to JFK. So this should be quite a good video. I'm gonna try and set this up from a cold and dark state to up and running, as noobified as I can get it, so new players can hopefully follow this. What is going on with these? Maybe I should have... Never mind. It is what it is. Okay, let's not hesitate. Let's get into the video. Okay, so before we get to the main bulk of the video, starting up Concorde from cold and dark state, I want to show you something. You do get flight plans included with your purchase of DC Design's Concorde. And the way to get to these, if you've not done it before, go to World Map and come down to the More button down here. The way you would load normal flight plans, but if you've not done it, More button, load and save. And it'll say, where do you want to load from? Load from your PC. Load from this PC. That's where the flight plans are. People are going to ask me now, it's inevitable, where's my community folder? I can't tell you where your community folder is. If you've installed at the default location from the store or from Steam, go and Google where the default location is if you've installed it in the default location. For myself, I've installed it at a bespoke location, Drive E, M2 Drive, FS2020, and Community. That's where my community folder is. Double click into your community folder, and you should have a folder called DC Designs Aircraft Concorde. Double click into that. In here, so that's where I am at the moment, double click into Documents. And then Concorde again, and flight plans, and that's where they are. So there is a flight plan from London Heathrow to JFK. That's the flight I'm going to be doing and making a tutorial video on. So I'm going to choose that, and open. And there you go. This is saying, incredibly, it should take us about just under 3 hours to fly from London to New York, which is pretty incredible, isn't it? But just be aware, this particular flight plan will set you up in a ready state. Your aircraft will be up and running on runway 27 right. I don't want that. I want a cold and dark state, so I'm going to choose ramp 258. I'm going to click on that and set as departure. That will start us up in a cold and dark state. It will alter the flight plan slightly. Be aware of that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start the aircraft up, taxi over to runway 27 right, and then reload that flight plan so we're all flying on the same page. And we're doing the tutorial flight plan, in other words. Okay, so I'm set up at ramp 258. So let's go fly. Okay, so here we are at our selected ramp. Let's go fly. So Concorde, nice and cold and dark. Lovely big area. A lovely airport, of course, Heathrow Airport, one of the original handcrafted airports for Flight Simulator 2020, or Microsoft Flight Simulator, whichever way you want to say it. Let's get in the aircraft. Now, a couple of things I want to mention first. It'll be handy if you go around the cockpit, use your cursor keys to move around the cockpit, and get into various positions where you can see the various instruments of the Concorde, because there's a lot of them. So let me just reset my cockpit view, and you can do that by setting a view, moving your mouse and cursor keys to a view, and then pressing things like Control Alt 1 to 9, which will set your custom views. Let me reset my view. So I've got a few views set up already. Control 1 will take me over to my engineering, overhead, more engineering for the engines, more overhead, down for the MCDU, whatever it's called in the Concorde, down to this part. And I did have another one, there we go, to show my engines as well. Probably not finished with all my views, I've got 7 set up so far. But let's reset my view. Now, let me just show you something. With the manual, let's go to the manual. On page 72, it's got a brief section about starting the engines. I couldn't really make head or tail of this. It doesn't go into enough detail. So bringing you back to the sim, you've got the trusty old checklists, which do a great job of helping you start these engines. Now, you've got before start engine and engine start. We'll go to before start engine. There are a couple of things that you need to be aware of. Most of these we can just tick. Landing gear down. I can see my landing gear's down, so I'm just going to go to that and just tick it off. Tick item. Parking brake, I know that's set. As my parking brake, it is set. Tick the item. Flight control blue inverter. If you've not used the checklist before, what you can do is click on the eye and it will take you, or highlight. So let's go to that. Oh, which one do I have set up for that overhead? Ah, there we are. It will highlight the button, what it's referring to. So flight control blue inverter on. It is on. It is on already. And you can mouse over that to put it to the various different configurations. But it is on by default. So I'm just going to go tick item. Green inverter. That's also on. I can tick it. I can see that. Anti-stall systems. Are they on? They are on. You can see that's flashing here. Tick item. Anti-stall 2, which should be a bit further along. There it is. I can see it's on. Tick item. Oops. Let's just go back up. It's a little bit fiddly. Altimeters. It's basically making sure that you've got your correct altitude set up for the runway you're set on. Just going to press the B key. There. You can mess around with this now. Pressing the B key will just set the altitude correct for where you are in the world at your chosen runway. So that's fine. I can tick that. Nav radios will come back to later. And the transponder. And ground hydraulics check. Now let's just go to the view I've got set up. It's this one here. It's basically, I believe it's all the way up here. Just click it and it will highlight it. It is. So I'm just going to use my cursor keys just to get up there. I've lost my mouse. Bear with me. If that happens, just press escape and go back. And it's saying yellow, yellow off. And it's in that position. Yellow, yellow off. So I can just tick that. By default, most of these are set up. Fuel heaters auto. Now, where are my fuel heaters? There they are. They're actually on at the moment. Let's get to a better view. So Alt 3 is that view. Fuel heaters. I can see. I'm just going to use my cursor. I can see they're on. You're going to have to mouse down to put them all to auto. And it's these 4 here. That's going to be quite important for starting the engines. Okay, so now they're all on auto. I can tick item. Engine recirculating valve, I believe. And it's on shut by default. Tick item. Secondary doors all on auto. There's the secondary air doors. So just mouse down on each of them to put them all down to auto. It's on open by default, so just put them all on auto. Tick item. FMC, I'm going to come back to these things later, so don't worry about these. Just tick item there. Seatbelt signal. I'm going to have to get to my over... it's my second one. My second view I've set up. Seatbelts. So I'm just going to tick on. It's off by default, so I'm just going to click on it, to put it onto on. And I'm just going to come down a little bit more. Don't worry about checking your aircraft weight. We can just tick item there. Beacon light should be around here too. There it is. Just going to make sure it's on. Yeah, there you go. Now it's on. Tick item. I had to use my mouse down to put that to on. So tick item there. Throttles are idle, I believe. Let's get down to my throttles view. I'll move my throttles just to show they're all in idle state. So I can tick item there. And engine feed pumps. Now let's just see where these are. I believe I'm going to have to go to this view. Engine feed pumps. Now engine feed pumps. Let me just make sure there's the pumps. All on. You can see they're all on. Pumps 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all turned on by default. So that's fine. Tick item. And I believe, have I missed something? Seatbelt signal. I didn't tick that. Once you've got them all ticked, page is complete. Then we can go to engine start. Okay, so I'm back in the default cockpit view. And what I'm going to try and do here is try and make this as fluid as I can. There's only a few steps, in fact, to start the engine up. Let's scroll this all the way back to the top. This one here, I know, is on the engineers panel, I believe. And it wants this switch on. Turn on external power, and that should all light up, basically. So that's okay. We can tick that. EP switch is down here, but I'll just highlight it for you. Switch it on. Should hear some noise happening now. And the second EP switch is over here. Turn it on. So we could tick that item, tick that item. EPU switch is an interesting one. It's here, the EPU switch. Let's get a bit nearer to it. Now, mouse disappears sometimes. Just press escape and escape again to get your mouse back. I'm going to turn it on. I'll come back to this later. But now that's selected is lit. Tick item. Engine bleeds, I believe. I'm going to have to come down here. I believe that all the way up the top here. There we go. Just make sure. Highlight it. Yep. Just turn them all on. Open them all. We could tick that. LP bleeds are down in this panel again. Low pressure switches, I believe. So open all those housings and turn all those low pressure switches on. Sorry, I can highlight that just to show you we were in the right place. Tick the item. Cross feeds of these switches here, sort of knobs. Just left click to turn them all on. Did I turn that on? That's right, so they're all on. Tick the item. And there you go, we can start, just with those few steps, we can start engine 3. So what I'm going to do here is just left click, set starter to on, go to my engine view here so I can actually see what's happening with the engines. And 3 is here. You can see this needle moving. And it's so I can tick that. I've turned the engine 3 on. Went in green and started. Just monitor it to make sure this needle here goes to the green. And that engine 3 is started. You can see the needle moving up here and moving up there. It's all fine. Tick item. Start engine 2. These switches will switch on off themselves. You'll see that in a moment. But I'll start engine 2. I'll just let you see that engine 3 turn off itself. Just for the moment. Just in a moment. Should turn itself off. There you go. So engine 2, we're doing the same thing. We're going to monitor it. This is engine 2 here. When that goes into green, tick that item. When that goes into green, we can move on. So give it a second. It should go to the green. You're going to hear switches click in the background. That's fine. Tick item. And that's it. First to engine. This is curious. Back to the EPU switch, which is this view here. It wants me now to turn this off. I believe this is a mistake, but but I'm going to follow the checklist, and I'll come back to this later. I'm going to turn that off. The engines 2 and 3 will stay on. Whilst we're doing that, let's go outside. Let's just alter my view. And I'm going to bring this down and go to ATC and tune in to the Heathrow ground. Ground services. And I'm going to request that we get our passengers loaded. Request WAMP connection. And baggage service. I'm not going to request catering, because catering and passengers all seem to convene on this door here. And it just ends up very messy. So I'll bring the ramp in so the passengers can board. The back door's opening for the baggage, which will commence shortly. So we'll get all that loaded. We don't need to stay on watch. That will connect and the baggage will load. Let's go down. So EPU, tick item. I've turned that off. Like I said, I'll come back to that in a moment. Request pushback. Let's get to my default view. Now with this, I've got something installed called, I think it's toolbar pushback. And it brings an icon. Once you got it installed, it brings an extra icon up here. Let's click on it. And I actually saw this on a different video. I think it was CG Aviator or something like that. That he was flying Concorde as well. And I thought I must get this. What this add-on does, it's free. I'll link it down in the description for PC Flight Simulator at the moment. You can pre-plan a pushback. This will come up here. Basically, you can drag, left click and drag. And you can say where you would like your pushback. I want it to the sort of right there, back right. Use your mouse to scroll that sort of silhouette of your aircraft to where you want your pushback to be and stop. That will do there, and then you can left click again and just press your enter key on your keyboard and request pushback. Let's get outside.
This is ground. Stand by.
So the pushback truck is getting into place. Oh, I hope all my passengers were loaded. I think I stopped all the... Yeah, okay, we'll just say they were all loaded. If you want to be more realistic, you can wait a while till you feel everything's been loaded in. That's fine. Should be okay. What this will do actually is lift the aircraft. Watch this in a moment.
Okay, sir. The bypass pin is installed. All doors and hatches closed and all ground equipment is removed. The parking brakes are set. You may lift. Parking brake set. Lifting the aircraft.
Watch. There you go, look, it lifts the aircraft. I think that's really neat. Really good.
We are cleared for start and push. Okay, cleared for push start. Please release parking brake. Parking brakes are released.
There you go.
Commencing pushback. You can start the engines in sequence.
Now the checklist.
Start in the sequence.
I'm following the checklist. I'm not going to start the other engines yet because it's saying pushback complete first. So I'm just going to follow the checklist for now, and then I'll come back to that EPU switch, which I believe is an error on this checklist. But I'll show you that in a moment. And there you go. It should push us back to where we requested with that toolbar pushback. Like I said, I'll link this tool down below. It just goes in your community folder. And it's excellent for all aircraft. It will do it with all aircraft, I believe. But certainly the airliners. Very atmospheric in Heathrow there. One of the original handcrafted airports in Flight Simulator 2020. Or Microsoft Flight Simulator, for those who prefer. Very, very atmospheric. Look at that. So it'll push us back to about here, which is where we requested. Dum-de-dum. It will get there eventually. Almost there. You can't rush a pushback. Can't rush a proper pushback. Look at that airport. I always love Heathrow Airport. It's absolutely fantastic. And our runway is just over here, by the way. So we've not got a long taxiway. Thankfully. All the little characters walking around there. I think it's just brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant. Okay.
Okay, pushback completed. Please set your parking brake. Parking brake set. Parking brake set. Lowering aircraft.
So lower it down.
Ground. You may disconnect. Okay, sir. Clear to disconnect. Pin has been removed. See you at the side.
So there you go. All set there. Let's get back in the cockpit.
Waiting for the visual. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye. Okay. So pushback cleared. We did the pushback. Tick item. Tick item. And now we can start engine 1. But watch this. I'll go to my view for the engines. If you would like me to walk you through how I set up these views, I can do another video. Let me know if you would like that, because I highly recommend setting up custom views in this aircraft. So start engine 1. Now watch what happens. We're going to monitor this engine 1. I'm not going to wait too long, but this will not work with that EPU switch switched off. These needles will go nowhere. So there you go. You see they're just not moving. Nothing's happening. So I think that's an error with the checklist. I'm going to turn engine 1 back off. Go to my view here and turn this switch back on. And now I can come back to engine 1, turn it on, monitor the engines, and you will see these needles now will start to rise. So you need that EPU switch on to start the engine. So that's an error with this checklist saying turning it off. There. So I've turned engine 1 on. Wait for it to go green. Or go into the green. Which it's doing now. That will do. Tick item. And engine 4. So as you can see, it's not that difficult to start this aircraft up when you think how many switches are in it. Engine 4. Monitor the engine. So engine 1's fine. They're all pretty much stabilised now. That's getting stabilised. Engine 4 needles are moving. And we'll let this fully stabilise before turning off the EPU again. Don't need that icon showing there, so I'll get rid of it. So there we go, it's in the green. Tick item, it's in the green. And there you go, let's go back to our engine view and just wait for that to click down. That means it's stabilised. There we go. And we'll go back to our EPU switch. Now we can turn this EPU off. And close the housing. And we'll go to flight controls. So that's pretty much it for starting up this beauty. Flight controls, are they working? They are. Rudder's working fine. So flight controls full and free. Trims, don't worry, we'll set them up later when we're on the runway. And stabilizers and fuel. Ah, now this one. Which one do I have set up for this? That was lucky. I believe all engaged. I believe these are all engaged by default. If you go into a ready state, these are all in this position. So I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe these are all engaged, these switches. Let's click the I, it's referring to these white ones up here. I believe those are all engaged by default. Tick item. Anti-ice, if we need it, we'll put it on later. And hydraulic electrics within limits, I'm assuming they are. Tick item. Page complete. So with that now complete, we will taxi to our runway. Okay, so taxiing to our runway, which I believe is just over here, so we can use... I'll just move that box out of the way so we can see better. We can use this first taxiway to our right, follow it round, And that will lead us on to this runway here, 27 right, I believe. So that's all very straightforward. Let's just go to the taxi checklist. There's nothing here that we really need to change. I've just did a quick check in the aircraft. Taxi clearance, yeah, let's just say I've got it. Parking brake I'll turn off, and then I'll get up to taxi speed. Visor down 10 degrees. Let's do that. Let's go into the cockpit, and I do believe they want this down so you can get a clearer view of when you're taxiing. So I'm going to use my flap switch, and it's this here, to get it down to 5, so it's in the down one, and down twice, and that will put it into the 5 degrees. The visor nose down. Takes a moment from when you do that for this to initiate. I don't know how realistic that is to the real aircraft, but I'm assuming that's the way it is. So give it a moment, let's watch it. There you go, it's going down. Let's jump outside and watch it go down. Yeah, get off. Checklist. There we go, I can watch this nose come down. Get into 5 degrees, you can see all the different hydraulics are moving and it's coming down lovely to 5 degrees. That's fine. The rest of it we just don't need to worry about. So you can go through these one by one if you want to. I've checked the rest. Engine feed pumps are on already, there's no problem there. Everything else is set. So we don't need to worry no more about that checklist. I'm just going to taxi to my runway, my chosen runway. So I'll just move the view down, set my throttle, maybe an 8th or so, release the parking brake. And we should start moving, maybe a little bit more throttle, not too much. You don't want to be racing around these runways in a Concorde. It's a valuable aircraft, especially nowadays. There we go. Noise. You're not getting the experience of the noise that I'll be getting in my headphones at the moment. Or when I'm not talking, I've got my speakers turned up. It increases the immersion of flying the Concorde tenfold. The noises they put in there, it's just outstanding. I can't wait to get supersonic in the air as well. Like I said, this is the tutorial, one of the tutorial flights that I'm doing. Or the suggested flights, the flight plans that you get with a Concorde. I will be doing other flights. I've got other things in mind. And one hopefully special flight in the future. I'll be interested to see. Okay, I'm just increasing my throttle a little bit more there. I'm just taxiing around. Get back in so I can get a better representation of my speed. Bring that throttle down slightly, it's picking up quite a lot. Test the brakes. Yeah, brakes seem fine. Not going very fast anyway at the moment. And just get on this taxiway here. There we go. And just follow this taxiway around, basically. How well am I doing? Not very well. Yeah, you've got to get over the taxiway with your nose. It's very deceiving in the Concorde, but there we go. We're following that taxiway around. There'll be quite a few tight turns here, it looks like, to get onto that runway. Double check. Yep, so I can take sort of right, then first left. There we go, that's better. And just follow this round. Braking a little bit there, just testing my brakes again. And it was picking up speed quite a lot as well. Well, not too much, you're probably thinking, get a move on. You can do if you want to, I'm just taking it nice and easy. Looking after this wonderful aircraft. Making the most of the experience of this as well. Loving the experience of it so far. I actually saw starting up the Concorde wasn't that complicated. yes, a couple of issues with the checklist. I'm sure, or I hope they will be ironed out. You know, turning the EPU off before you start engine 1 and 4 doesn't seem to work. That's the only issue I ran into. The rest of it, I mean, God, was it Claude? You did comment on my first impressions video of the Concorde. Let me know if the startup is accurate and representative of the real thing. I think it must be. Wonderful achievement as well. Like I said, I've stayed away from airliners in Flight Simulator. I want to see the scenery mainly. That's the main reason I've stayed away from airliners, because they fly so high up. And the default ones weren't very impressive. The default Airbus especially, bit of a letdown. I've not tried any of the fly-by-wire variants of it I was going to, or other airliners. This one I'm really into. So you can expect a few videos at least of this, and it's one I'll be flying in the background when I'm not making videos, learning more about it. You can make this a study like as you like. It's technically not known as a study sim. Those will be the ones which are completely accurate and have all the different procedures. You know, the manual will be 3 times the size. To me, it's a study sim. It's study enough for me. Be interested to know your comments on that. So there you go. I tell you what, the video's coming off that. The video's going on for long enough. I'm going to hold short here of Runway 27 right. And in the next video, I'll actually be on Runway 27 right. And we'll be following the example flight that it gives in the manual. London Heathrow to JFK. And let's see how that goes. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do give this a try if you bought the Concorde. Try it up from a cold and dark state. It's a great sense of accomplishment and achievement once you've done it. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon.